Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast, brought to you by DraftKings, America's #1 sportsbook app. Joined by William Brad Alice. I am merely Mike Luke. William, did you have a good holidays? I know how it went, but fill the other people in.
You know, overall, it was relatively drama-free. My wife's dad and stepmom are in the state. They were down last week, and then so she went to go stay longer in Phoenix. So my son and I came home Christmas night from Phoenix. My wife and daughter stayed up there, and then I get a call yesterday, and my wife thought she left her wallet in the car, and she did. So guess who had to go back? And I didn't have to go all the way up to Phoenix, but just like south in the if you go up Arizona Avenue,
right.
There's that place where it splits with Florida. So I drove the hour, she drove the 35 minutes, and so I got to spend
in the middle.
I got to spend a part of my day off driving back to Phoenix for the third time in 3 days.
Right. All right. Well, speaking of which, we got Arizona ASU basketball this week, obviously Saturday, and I've been going over a lot of it, and I want to know your opinion. Why has let's say since 83, 84, why has ASU not ever really been able to sizably close the gap? There's been a few seasons here or there, but there's never been a 5, a 6, a 7-year stretch where it felt like ASU was getting closer.
Why has USC not been able to sizably close the gap? Why has Kansas State not been able to sizably? Right. At the end of the day, it's really hard to become an elite program. Arizona State, I think, made a very wise hire back in the day when they hired Herb Sendek. He was much like I think Arizona football has to do. He was kind of a system coach. He was able to, obviously he could integrate the James Hardens and the Diagus of the world, but for the most part, you run your system, you run it well, you can fit a variety of players in the system. But at the end of the day, it's not going to win you national championships. It's not going to get you to Elite Eights. I think in the grand scheme of things, as much as he has done some good things, Hurley's been somewhat of a failure there. And that's been the last 15 years for those two guys. At the end of the day, I think it's really hard if you're not an established program to and for whatever reason, to build powerhouses in pro cities. The exceptions are USC football, UCLA basketball, and at the time, Miami or football. But it's been where I saw something where, no one alive playing in the national championship tournament has ever seen Miami win a conference championship in football. So for the most part, I think it's hard to get the community buy-in, the booster buy-in at these, ASU's not a pure commuter school, but it's kind of a commuter school. For the same reason you don't see, SMU good anymore, or, a lot of these other schools. Even if you look to some of them are suburban, sort of, Ann Arbor's not that far from Detroit, but yeah, it's just really hard. And when you don't have a ton of in-state talent, and most of the in-state talent you do have.
But see, it's different. But it's different now, though, because back in the day, like when I was growing up, every third year you would have a really good player. You would have a Bibby, then a Jefferson, then a Fry, then a Bayless, a Johnson, a Dalen Terry. But now, I mean, when you've got these prep schools that are just loaded with talent, again, I get that they're transplants, but you would think you'd be able to get some of those guys.
But when you look at it, how many people go to an ASU basketball game?
Right. And that's the key, too, is that these guys don't grow up. And I put something out there about this earlier. Nobody grows up wanting to say, man, I would love to be an ASU basketball player. Those guys that I talked about that came to Arizona, a lot of those guys grew up wanting to play for the U of A. Nobody grows up wanting to be an ASU basketball player. And until that's changed, I don't think anything's going to change.
Well, put it this way. If you're let's use DeAndre Ayton, for example, a kid who grew up in the Bahamas, lived in San Diego, then went to prep school in Phoenix. And you go to an Arizona basketball game, exciting environment. The fans come out, it's packed. It's a great way to watch a game. You go to a Suns game, and then even when DeAndre was here, the Suns are still, it's a top-notch presentation of basketball.
Right.
You go to ASU, and with the exception of the students who do a nice job, I think the curtain of distraction is silly, but it's their thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's 3,000 other people in the crowd.
Right.
I haven't been to Wells Fargo in a decade. I don't know if they've fixed it up, but it was just always kind of dingy.
Yeah, I agree.
And,
It didn't have a real college,
and yeah,
like you said.
Some of it was the colors. Like it just maroon and gold may look good on a uniform. It may not, in my opinion.
Right.
But yellow walls in the hallways doesn't look good.
Correct. Yes.
If you look at it, the Suns don't paint everything orange. America West or whatever it is now, it's a lot of gray. It's a lot of concrete and steel and things like that. Mikhail looks good with the shiny navy and shiny cardinal. And again, maybe ASU looks different now, but and the guy just made a comment about the hockey. The hockey arena looks cool. It looks cool on TV. So again, if you're DeAndre Ayton, if you're one of these guys from out of state who comes here and you have your choice of looking at, and again, Arizona's not landing a ton of prep players from Phoenix either right now. At least prep school players. They're landing a few. Dallin Terry's a native for the most part. But you go to an ASU game and you go to a U of A game, which is the better environment? Where do you want to play?
It's not even close, especially if you're investing money, because some of these tickets are like really expensive, and we'll get to where you should get those tickets in a second here. But I did want to talk. I want to talk the Arizona ASU matchup here, and then Arizona as they go into conference play. But two things: OGs. All right. So you might say to yourself, Mike, what's an OG? OGs is the gummies that have partnered with PHNX. You can get them at your local dispensary. You got to be 21 and up. Indicas, sativas, all kinds of good flavors out there. Help you sleep, help you feel good. Check it out. OGs. Again, check them out at your local dispensaries, 21 and up, and enjoy responsibly. And then, Four Peaks, the official brew of PHNX Sports. Many people confuse it with the Four Peaks, the U of A big men, but the Four Peaks is actually named after the Four Peaks Brewery. Go down there. They got all kinds of fun stuff going on at Four Peaks in the Tempe location, or you can come to our tap and bottle watch parties, which are going to be occurring this Saturday at noon. Hope to see you all down there. We'll be pushing that out there on social media shortly. But Four Peaks, really good stuff. Check it out. 21 and up. Check out the show notes and the links in the description for both. All right. ASU, I got to admit, Brad's a little bit better than I thought it was this year. Now, again, it was very satisfying watching them get destroyed by San Francisco in the manner in which they did. But it's a little bit better team than I thought. It's a team that Arizona's got to take seriously. That being said, I still expect Arizona to win this game fairly easily Saturday.
Really unusual season for ASU as they have beaten some really solid programs.
They really have.
Lost to one of those Texas schools. I can't remember. Did they lose to Tarleton State and beat South Texas or Texas Southern? I'm not sure.
And one of them was like a buzzer beater or something.
Yeah, and then they lost. And San Francisco's not bad. I don't know how much they have back from last year's team was like a 30-win team whose coach then went on to, get a better job, and they kept a lot of it intact. So it's not the fact they lost on the road to San Francisco; it's that they got destroyed on the road to San Francisco. And I think the final was about 27, but that game was that was a 40-point lead for much of the second half or close to it. So it's kind of crazy. It's just an inconsistent season. Now you can argue, Arizona's won losses to Utah, who's, not that good, although maybe like ASU better than advertised. But yeah, this ASU team it'll be interesting to see what they do in conference play, because we've seen Hurley teams do pretty well in the non-conference and then kind of implode. And I don't know if that's, he's really good at getting them ready early and then they can't adjust. I don't know if it's you get some tape on them and they become beatable. I don't know if, there's chemistry issues and maybe it starts with him because he seems like he might be a difficult guy to play. I mean, something's going on there when a lot of their best players leave.
Right. The Bagley thing, though, I'm not going to put on him because
I'm not putting the Bagley thing on, but I mean, the kid who went to Kansas, the kids, you got a lot of guys who have good roles,
right?
And kind of bail on it. Pella Larson was not a star at Utah. But for a while, when Krystkowiak was there, guys weren't bailing on him. Now, a bunch of guys bailed when he got let go.
Right.
But, you don't see that. You see that at ASU. You see that at Cal, where their best player
That's a good point.
Leave. You don't see that even at Washington that much.
Right.
And Hopkins has been a dumpster fire since his first season.
Good point.
His first season, where everyone's like, "Oh, that's a really good high," and then it was like, "Oh, he hasn't done anything since." But for whatever reason, guys bail on ASU, and I don't know if it's again the lack of fan support, if it's Hurley. Now, obviously, there's some NIL opportunities, but they lose a lot. That roster turns over. Now he's also able to attract guys. So he does a really good job bringing in transfer portal talent or pre-transfer portal talent, but doesn't mesh them like a certain coach who grew up in Crete, Nebraska, has done traditionally, although this year not as much. So I think it's it's weird. So we'll see. My guess is ASU will be better than expected, but they'll come back down to earth in conference play because that's just what ASU does.
All right, let's talk in conference now because you've got Arizona, you've got Arizona, you got UCLA. Those are clearly the two best teams in the conference right now. It's an interesting matchup though for me for Arizona. By the way, tap and bottle watch parties. You got to come down again. Check it out Saturday at noon. Going to be Arizona ASU. We'll be yelling at the TV screen, having a lot of good times right there. Come join us. It's again, Four Peaks will be there. Four Peaks. All kinds of good stuff. Scott and Rebecca do a fantastic job out there. And again, it's just a fun place to go watch. So join us, Tap and Bottle, 12 o'clock noon Saturday. Arizona and UCLA right now are two of the teams that kind of just, to me, Brad, are they're the cream of the crop right now. But they're drastically different matchups. And I think that's what's intriguing about both of them, is that UCLA is not a big, tall team, but they're definitely perimeter based, and they've had some guys that have surprised this year. Jalen Clark, especially at that wing, he kind of plays a de facto power forward, small forward, 6'5", might be the defensive player of the year front runner in the conference. Jaime Jaquez, Bona. Then you got guys like Mari Bailey and Tiger Campbell. It's a matchup, though, that I think Arizona is going to be able to take advantage of because, quite frankly, they're just not tall enough, in my opinion, against Arizona. I think UCLA can win some games, but I think Arizona is a tough matchup for them.
No, I do too. Now, again, UCLA did a nice job against Kentucky, who has some quality bigs.
For sure.
And they beat up on Maryland. Maryland's not super big either, though. But, yeah, you're right. When they've gone against some kind of big, slightly physical teams with some athleticism, most notably Illinois and Baylor, they didn't look great. They were in those games. And that's just UCLA is going to be in most games. Their defense is so good. Their rebounding is good. Frankly, when you've got guys like Tiger and Jaquez, they're going to keep you in games. Just
want to know a fun stat about Jaquez's mother? Not many
Sure.
people know. She played basketball at Pima Community College. Also is from Tucson.
Interesting.
Yep.
And he's what's weird about him is he is so un-UCLA.
He is.
He's
very much so.
He's the kind of guy who played at Cal.
Yes. Oh, he's got a lot of Jorge Gutierrez in him.
He's got a lot of that. He's the kind of guy who was a star at Cal. And you know what? I kind of think Tiger Campbell he doesn't seem like a UCLA guy.
Right.
Because he's not flashy.
Right.
He's gritty. And, UCLA, that's Cronin. So they're perfect. Even though Cronin didn't recruit those guys, they're perfect Cronin guys, which is very unlike the glitz and glamour of UCLA. Now, you could argue that Miller wasn't exactly the glitz and glamour of Arizona either, and he would have loved those guys as well. But no, UCLA is really good. They're well coached. Say all you want about Cronin and him being kind of a hard ass.
He makes us look tall, Brad.
Yeah, that's always nice because I need all the help I can get. But he's got a quality team. Are they? They're not. I think they lack some of the dynamic scoring. Singleton's done a nice job, but to me, yeah, they and Arizona class of the league. There's probably 4 or 5 other interesting teams. Some of those have nice records, like USC, like ASU. Some of even Washington's record's not bad. I don't think they're very good. And then you've got kind of Oregon and Colorado who have done some very nice things and done some very bad things.
Yes.
I think of the two, Oregon's the one who could get hot in Pac-12 play, but Colorado's just going to be a team you're not, especially on their court, you're not going to want to play. They could easily lose by 40, or they could beat you by like 15.
With the
And,
way
they've beaten good teams this year. They've lost to awful teams this year.
With the way that Arizona's schedule has gone, obviously you get the win against Indiana, you get the win against Tennessee, you get Creighton, San Diego State. Now I get that some of those teams have kind of fallen off, but if Arizona takes care of business in the conference, let's say, and again, I don't even know what number they play now, but let's say you go 15-3 or whatever the case may be, you're looking very much at a strong possibility of having a number 1 seed again, just because of what they were able to do out of conference.
Yeah, they stockpiled a bunch of quad 1 wins, even though I guess Creighton dropped out temporarily, but you expect them to kind of find.
But I expect them to be there at the end of the year. I tell people that all the time. Yeah,
they've been missing the guy for quite a few games as well. The problem is you're not going to get a lot of quality wins in Pac-12 play unless, again, USC keeps winning. UCLA, yes. Does Oregon get on a run where they win 8 of 10 or something like that to start league play? But Cal's going to drag you down.
Right.
Some other programs, even if they've got the wins, they don't have quality wins, so they're not considered good wins. So yeah, Arizona's got to get some wins over some of these good teams. Avoid bad losses to, Wazoo or Cal or what have you. And then, get, it's almost like if you're going to lose to like the 5th through 7th.
Well, that's what I was going to say, right? Yeah.
You want, so like Utah at the end could end up being a perfect loss because you need to beat UCLA and you need to beat USC.
And it's in Utah. Utah doesn't totally suck either. So,
okay.
Yeah. And,
I saw one projection where they're like firmly on the bubble right now. 9-4. They got a couple good wins. So Arizona's going to have to go, and I think they play 20 now. So they're going to probably have to go somewhere in the neighborhood of 17-3, 16-4 to get the one. I don't even know if 5 losses get you a 1 seed or not. It really depends how other teams cannibalize each other. But they can't go 13-7 and still win the league. They can't go 14. The Pac-12 is not good enough. You've got to probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of a 3 to 5 total loss team, which they would be because of
but Utah. Having those wins in your back pocket, those out of conference wins, is very, very nice, though.
And frankly, Arizona and to a lesser extent UCLA really bolstered the Pac-12's
most top 25 wins by the Pac-12 has the most top 25 wins out of conference right there. So I'm going to say
they have the most losses to the SWAC.
Right. Well, you know what? But that won't stop them from giving 14 Big Ten teams into the NCAA tournament where they can all lose in the first round.
When did the Big Ten become the ACC?
And Brad, this has happened for the last 5 years. If you were to watch ESPN or Selection Sunday, all they talk about is, well, you got to at least put 10 teams in from the Big Ten. Why?
No, see, to me,
and it happens every year.
To me, if you don't have a 500 record in conference, you're out. I don't care what conference you play. And I always say, well, they play tough schedule. Well, you need to win some games.
Right.
But frankly,
they fall on their face in the tournament every single year.
I'd much rather watch the 6th place Big East team or the 3rd place team in the Missouri Valley than the 12th place team from the ACC or the Big 12.
Right.
I'd much rather, a Northern Iowa, and I don't think they're good this year because the wife's a great, but those type teams are always fun come tournament time. The 5th place Mountain West team, get that Colorado State team in there. Then I want to see, and again, I haven't looked at the standings, but I'm presuming that, a 9-9 in conference Illinois team might make it, or, someone like that. This year, obviously Purdue looks pretty good. I'm not denigrating the top of the league, but
I am.
I've seen Ohio State a few times. They're fine.
Indiana's kind of the same way. Not a bad team, but meh.
I think Indiana's okay. They passed the eyeball test more than they passed the stats test. Them playing Arizona, I actually think they're more equipped to go farther than Tennessee is.
Really? Interesting.
And I
You
said
might
that
have a
then.
side wager on that, William.
Yeah. Now, do I think Tennessee's the better team? Yeah, but I think Indiana's can score better. I think
Right.
Tennessee, and I know defense travels, but I could see Tennessee just having one of those games where they can't hit anything. They can't,
Right.
and end up, again, both of those teams should have lost by 20 plus to Arizona. So,
Right.
but yeah, I think Indiana's just a little more athletic and could, again, would I bet on it? Well, I guess we have a side wager of some sort.
We'll figure it out.
A nice
Maybe
cold
a 4
frosty
peaks.
4 peaks. Yeah. But yeah, Tennessee seems like a weird team to me.
All right, let's talk a little bit of Arizona football here, but Illegal Pete's, another sponsor now that is joined with PHNX. Illegal Pete's, obviously you have the one up in Tempe, or you have the one down here in University. I'm going to speak to the one on University. Spent a lot of times at Illegal Pete's in my younger days. Great food, great drinks, basically anything you want there, they have. What were you going to say there, William?
I'm laughing at this run of sponsors we have. Do you have a certain demographic we're approaching where, you have a gummy, you get your burrito, you get a beer.
Oh, that's what we're going young around here, Brad. Yes, we're going young. But again, check it out. Illegal Pete's, great stuff. Food, drinks. Check out show notes, a link in the description. But again, it's always packed for a reason. Illegal Pete's.
Great place to catch it before a home game.
Yeah, absolutely. You could do that. Be a great place. Again, check it out. Illegal Pete's on University. All right, Brad. Arizona football, their calm is set in right now. Let's talk about the defense right now. Let's talk at the linebacking core first. You've got Jacob Manu, obviously. Jerry Roberts comes back. You bring in Justin Flo. There's a good chance you're going to get Leviticus Sua. What are you looking at from the linebacking core this coming year? Excuse me.
I think overall you look at an upgrade in the position.
What do you expect out of Flo? Do you expect him to be, what he was expected to be out of high school? Somewhere in between that and what he was at Oregon? I have no clue what to expect.
I have no clue. And again, I was lukewarm on Eccles.
Right.
And then he proved me wrong. So I'm optimistic, but my guess is if Flo can be a 3.5-star player, if he can be Anthony Pandy, you're probably in good shape because you mix that with Manu, you mix that with, Roberts for 1 year. If they get Sua, Sterling Lane is still floating around there. I don't know if there's some thought of moving him to the end or not. I have no idea, but he came in very well regarded and he seems to be content being at Arizona. So you've had a total overhaul of that position, but I think overall, when you look at it, it's an upgrade. Is it great? I don't know. It could be, but right now, if you have to go to war with Jerry Roberts and Jacob Manu, I can live with that.
Right.
And if you can get anything out of Flo this year, if you can get anything out of the other young guys, you're in really good shape. You're not great, but you're in good shape. And right now, you just need the defense to be better. You need it to be okay. That's
what I needed from the defense is this. I need the defense to be like 8th or 9th worst in the conference because I think the offense is going to be fantastic. Show that kind of improvement right there.
They have to be able to kind of do what they did the year before. Allow Arizona to hang around.
Right.
Because Arizona hung around a lot of games with a bad offense 2 years ago. Now with a very good offense, if you can keep teams in the 30s, Arizona's going to win more football games than they did last year. Last year, you were in the high 40s, and you can't win football games that way.
Well, I'm curious. The D-line, to me, also is fascinating because I'm a big fan. I think Kangaika and Uiagalelei are going to be pretty good at those tackle positions. I think those are both good finds. You bring in Bill Norton out of Georgia. By the way, Bill Norton, great name. People say, well, he didn't do anything at Georgia. That doesn't mean anything to me here because Arizona's not Georgia. But what I am worried about, though, is replacing the pass rush because Hunter Eccles, Hunter Eccles was a 5-sack guy, was probably your best D lineman. Jalen Harris got 4 as well. I think Deuce Davis is going to be pretty good, but I don't know who else on this roster right now. That might be one of my biggest concerns right now is who is going to be that pass rusher.
Yeah, and I don't know are they going to continue with this 4-2? Are they going to, alter it and start using more outside linebackers. You know, are there plans? You know, what is Tyler Manoa? I don't know what he is.
Right.
Is he an inside guy? Is he an outside guy? Do they have enough depth? Because whereas I'm not shedding tears over losing Bars and Shand. They would have been very nice depth for this group.
Right.
Again, those are more interior guys, but yeah, I think those concerns for the pass rush are absolutely. You don't need sacks, but you need pressures. You need to
and you need
guys.
As much as you can scheme. It's different when you have somebody that's kind of quick twitch that can bend off the edge. That makes it easier than just saying, okay, well, we just got to blitz here. We got to do this. When you've got somebody that in certain situations can get to the QB, it makes it easier.
With the quality of quarterback play of the Pac-12, the ability to rush 4 more often than not is vital because you want to drop 7 into coverage.
Right.
You don't want to have to rely on blitzes over and over and over. And because if they don't get home, then Caleb Williams is going to destroy you.
Yeah.
Bo Nix is good enough. You know, Penix is really, really good.
Drew Pine, not good enough.
Yeah, you know, I like Pine, but does he have enough around him?
You see him riding the Pine behind Bourguet?
I don't know if Bourguet's going to stay. That's my...
Okay.
At what point do you just go, you just won't give me a chance?
It's a good point.
Because, again...
He played pretty well last year.
I think Bourguet can play. Now, if I'm Bourguet, I'm hightailing it to San Diego State because they don't have a quarterback.
Right.
Great place to play.
Right.
He can get on TV a lot or somewhere like that.
I agree.
Because I just don't feel, and again, it's really tough to fully commit to a former walk-on who's a little undersized. And
it shouldn't be at this point, though, because he's got the tape. You've seen
in reality, it should be you bring in Pine and you go open competition, but we all know you usually end up favoring the transfer.
Right.
That's just kind of the way it is. You know, unless you're Arizona and you brought in 4 transfers in 1 year. But you know but this is a league that's going to have 8 or 9 quality quarterbacks at least.
Have I told you about the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX?
You have.
All right. Now, again,
but I want to hear more.
You can never have this too much, Brad. Here's the deal. You can put down $5 on an NBA game, and you can get up to $200 in free plays just betting money line if that team wins. I'm going to go with a different avenue right now. Take the Bucks against bad teams. I said take the Suns against bad teams. The Suns went on a losing streak.
Are the Suns secretly a bad team now?
What's that? I know.
Suns have been playing like a bad team.
For sure. Now, I'm going to say Giannis Antetokounmpo, best player in the world. Ride him, see how far he'll take you. Again, 21 and up, Arizona only. Got a gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Check out the show notes and the link in the description. All right, Brad, let's talk about these defensive backs here for Arizona before signing off. Obviously, you lose Christian Roland Wallace. That's a big loss. I think out of all the guys that Arizona lost, that was the one that I think stings the most because of the position. But I like the young corners. I think that Prysock and Davis have a lot of potential right there. The safety position is going to be fascinating to see how that plays out. Obviously, Isaiah Taylor's probably going to be one of the starters, Jason Taylor's kid. But then you got some openings right there. It's high on youth and athleticism, low on experience. What do you think about the DBs?
Again, Jackson Turner's a lot like Bars and Shand to me. You're better with him, but you're better with him as a second stringer.
Right.
He's not that good. I'm assuming we're going to see a lot of Taylor. I'm assuming we're going to see a lot of Warnell, who did some really good things towards the end of the year, but wasn't so good that Maldonado didn't kind of crawl back in.
And Maldonado, in all fairness to him, he played better towards the end of the year.
He did. It's kind of like he lost his job and then kind of won it back. And again, I don't know what his status. I can't keep track of who's because of all these extra years. I don't even know if Maldonado's back or not. But to me, it's safeties in the pass rush are probably my biggest concern. I think there's enough talent at corner that, again, with Davis, with Prysock, with Stoops, with, I'm very interested in Celestine. And then some of the other young guys they've got to commit. I mean, some of those guys may get thrown to the fire, and that's going to happen at safety as well. I have a suspicion. But there's a lot of bodies, and that's the good news, unlike maybe the defensive front, which doesn't have a lot of bodies because, again, they lost a ton of guys. Now, most of them aren't good enough to play, but at some point you need bodies up front.
All right.
So those to me are the two concerns.
I'm throwing down the gauntlet, though. Just finished 8th worst in the conference defensively, and we're going to be going bowling, William. Would you agree with this?
More than likely, yeah.
All right. All right, Abraham. I see you in there, Abraham. I'm going to remember this comment when you are asking for a good call playing basketball. I remember that. But, all right, Brad, people are asking, where can they find you? What's going on? You got anything going on this week?
Yeah, I keep promising I'm going to start recording again. I really hope so. It's just a matter of having quiet time in a busy house and work in the holidays. So if I don't get something recorded this week because there's only 2 of us in the house, then shame on me, but certainly towards the new year. But yeah, I think we'll have something at some point this week, 1 or 2. I want to talk a little bit more about these transfers in, these transfers out. I want to talk a little more hoop. And just, as always, the end of the year means some music recommendations for the world as well for Prince of the East Side, who seems to like the music talk.
Any chance of you mingling with the common folk this Saturday at Tap and Bottle?
I don't think I'm going to be in town. I think I have to go back up to Phoenix to be with the in-laws. But if I am in town, then yes, you will see me and some kind of novelty T-shirt and possibly my now 5'5", 12-year-old son.
He's William Brad Alice. I am only Mike Luke. As always, appreciate all the comments here. You are fantastic. And we'll be back with you tomorrow. Kyle Dodd coming into enemy territory to talk some Arizona ASU basketball. But for the great William Brad Alice, I am Mike Luke. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.